School District's Facebook page. Vision. Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Our mission. Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. This meeting has been called to order. I'm going to begin by saying that if you have not been to the fine arts programs, you are missing out. I was there Monday for the fine arts programs at Sumter High School. I felt like I was in a professional audience with professional performers in Columbia. They are all outstanding. So please, if you have an opportunity, please go to those. And I want to commend the Fine Arts Coordinator for this. And Fine Arts has fallen into the CIA committee, so I don't think I'm out of order by mentioning that. We're here because, as our vision says that we are committed to educating, we are committed to empowering, and we are committed to enriching the lives of students. And that, dear friends, is why we're here. We're not here to tear anybody down. We're here to build everybody up. So let us begin. With no objection, this agenda stands approved. Dr. McLeod, do you want to begin?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Chairwoman Disney, members of the CIA committee, our community at large, our staff. Today we're going to hear from Ms. Deborah Healy, who is the new principal at Cherryvale Elementary School, followed by Ms. Marie Dantzler, who is a newly assigned principal at Ari Davis Preparatory Academy, followed by Dr. Maggie Wright, principal of Lakewood High School. These three schools were recently identified as unsatisfactory on the underperforming annual school list based on student assessment data from the 2022-23 school year. While this list is fairly new as far as release in November, the report cards were released in mid-October. However, we've been analyzing the data as different data points have been released since the students took the test in the last set of tests in May. So to us, we have been working on these improvement plans since May, if not before, depending on which test the students were taking. For example, we received the third grade SE Ready ELA in May in order to know which students were required to attend summer school for summer reading camp. So in saying that, it's kind of like an autopsy. They're going to state where we were at that time, but the real focus is on what we're doing now to move forward. So having said that, I'm going to ask Ms. Healy to come forward first for Cherryvale. Keep in mind that we are just opening our window for the winter map testing for kindergarten through 8th grade and our end of course for high schools for Algebra 1, English 2, Biology 1, and U.S. History. So in January, we will be able to give updates on those tests and give some growth measures. So there'll be follow-ups for that in January. So Ms. Healy, if you would like to begin, make sure you turn your mic on.
It's on, I think. Good morning. I'm here to present the data for Cherryvale Elementary School, and like Dr. McLeod said, more importantly, the action steps we have taken since learning the data to try to move us in a different direction. So I'm going to start by just a brief review of what the data is. It's all out there, it's all public. I'm going to talk about just a couple contributing factors, things that might have led us to where we were. And the bulk of it will be the action steps we have taken. And then at the end, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. So our overall rating was unsatisfactory, and I did put the points out there. Our academic achievement was also unsatisfactory. Our preparing for success was unsatisfactory. That's, as you know, the science, but it also has our kindergarten readiness assessment. And I thought it was important to note that 2.6 of our kindergarten students demonstrated readiness on the KRA test at the beginning of the year. Our student progress was below average, and our school climate was unsatisfactory. So for ELA, our fifth grade scores were the best, and it was of note that we had just one teacher that taught all of fifth grade ELA last year. So all of that is attributed to that one teacher. And the others were lower, but pretty close to each other. For math, it was our fifth grade again that did well, and typically in elementary school, it's the opposite way. Third grade is usually a little higher than fifth, but ours were kind of inverted last year. And the same was true with fifth grade math. We had one teacher that taught fifth grade math last year. And our fourth grade really suffered, and I'll discuss that in one of the other slides. Our fourth grade, just 19% of our fourth graders scored met or exceeding. And our fourth grade, they didn't team teach last year, they were all self-contained. So one classroom teacher taught all the subjects. So some of the contributing factors, of course, everyone's aware, we're still recovering from the learning loss as a result of COVID-19. We changed administrators at Cherryvale in October last year. So with that comes a change of mindset and a reshift of focus. And this current school year, we didn't have an assistant principal until the end of October. The teacher shortage, that's no, excuse me, that's no surprise. Of our 3 fourth grade classes, we had one class that had multiple subs throughout the year. Not just one long-term person, but it changed from time to time. Now, we did shift gears to where we had our leadership team, our instructional, well, we didn't have an instructional coach, but we had interventionists, and we did have them pick up the instruction in there just to have some continuity, but maybe it was too little too late. We also have a high rate of student absenteeism, tardies, and early dismissal that affects our population. So what have we done since learning the data to take us in a different direction? First and foremost, we sat down and we analyzed our data. We recognized very early that our fifth grade scores were our highest. So we developed a pretty non-conventional elementary school schedule where our fourth and fifth grade is more like a middle school schedule. So we took our stronger ELA teachers and our stronger math teachers, and we gave them just that subject to kind of maximize their reach. And then looked at the other data for the other subjects as well, and filled in our fourth and fifth grade team that way. We have 3 veteran teachers in our third grade, so we feel that that was a move as well. We added the position of instructional coach. We hadn't had that until this current school year. And we feel that's necessary to assist with our efforts to improve. We do have a large number of alternate pathway teachers that need more assistance from the coach as well, so that helps with that. We added an additional math interventionist, so we had 1, this year we have 2, to address our deficiencies in math. For us and for all the schools in the district, I believe math was lower than the ELA, so we have 2 math interventionists and a reading interventionist. We shifted our focus this year, and we have strongly committed to protecting the time of our interventionists and our coaches. So through the pandemic, when we needed someone to cover a class, we found ourselves pulling from the interventionists. We had certified teachers in them, and we used them to cover our classes when we couldn't get subs. And in hindsight, what that did was dropped a lot of our intervention, which was also needed. So we've made some changes in-house to where we protect that time as best we can, and they're our last resort to pull from to get a sub. We instituted grade level collaborative planning weekly with our instructional coach and the rest of our leadership team as they're available. And that's just because, you have pockets of strong teachers, but as educators, we tend to work in our room. So we're getting that sharing of ideas and that brainstorming going in our weekly sessions that our leadership team also participates in. We have weekly professional development. We've increased our presence in the classrooms. We're seeing the need in the classroom ongoing. And we meet as a leadership team once a week to discuss that, and then that drives the professional development that our coaches have on Thursdays. We are sharing lesson plans, reviewing by leadership team, and providing that feedback to teachers. We're trying to be proactive with the weekly planning to where we're meeting with them there to kind of get them in the right direction. But then we are reviewing and giving feedback to improve that as well. I already mentioned increased administrator and leadership team presence in the classroom. We have a schedule where we get around to all of the teachers. With Elliot, sometimes just a walk through, more informal, but getting ourselves into those classrooms. Implementing the new code of conduct with Fidelity is helping address some of the behavior issues. And right now we currently have 2 administrators on staff with strong backgrounds in elementary curriculum, as well as our curriculum coach. And we will be beginning an after-school program when we come back from the break, and we're going to utilize FEV tutors, which gives each child a one-on-one virtual tutor. And that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Thank you for coming.
No problem.
I understand that this is a new assignment for you.
Yes, ma'am.
I applaud you because you have to look the bear in the face
Thank you.
and say, I can reach you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do know that the CSI has opportunities from the State Department.
Mhm.
Are you currently receiving South Carolina Transformation Coach? Do you have a Transformation Coach?
I do not.
Cherryville is identified as priority. That's a
All right,
state
not-
identification.
Not a CSI.
Right, that's correct.
All right, then, do you have access to the school improvement framework?
Yes.
And do you have access to the South Carolina evidence-based intervention guide?
Yes, ma'am.
And then do you have professional learning opportunities from various Department of Education offices?
From the state, yes, ma'am.
Do they come in regularly?
No,
They do not.
they do not.
In other words, you have an opportunity for them, but they're not coming in regularly.
We see the person over the reading coaches pretty regularly, probably weekly or every other week at the most, but
Okay, do you feel like that could be improved?
yes.
All right. Also, it says that you should be receiving state education assistance funds.
Yes,
So
we
you
are.
receiving
Mhm.
that. The other thing, I heard you say that there are a number of absences. Do you need somebody from the district to go visit the parents who have children who are allowing them to be absent?
We do have a team. I have a school resource officer, of course, I have an attendance person, and our guidance counselor helps out with that too, doing those home visits, trying to stay on top of that.
So you feel like you're getting enough assistance in that category?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you have any idea why they're being absent?
I do not know.
Do y'all talk to the kids and ask?
Yeah, and we talk to the parents too, and in our community, a lot of it is, many of our students are within 1.5 miles of our school, so they don't get district transportation. So parents don't want to send them walking. So they try to do car transportation, but then mom or dad works, or mom or dad has to be here or there, and that contributes to the problem.
I don't know if it would help, but, some schools try to get parents to come in and assist a little bit,
Hmm.
to buy into the process.
Right.
And I heard you say that at one time you did not have an instructional coach.
Right.
Can you explain to all of us, what's the difference between an interventionist
Hmm.
and an instructional coach? And you seem to have more interventionists.
Right. Now, our interventionists work with students. So they identify students based on student data that could use a little boost or a little more one-on-one, and they put them in small groups. And they do cycles. So they'll keep them for about 6 weeks, and then they'll look at scores again, and they'll pick up a different, and they just kind of cycle through. Where our instructional coach works more with the different curriculum for teachers. You know, they work with teachers with strategies and stuff like that.
And do you feel like you have enough interventionists?
At this time I do. I feel like our coach is tasked because of, like I said, we have a number of teachers who are going through alternate pathways to certification. So they don't have a traditional degree in certification, so of course they need a little more support, you know, and she tries to do it all, so that's a lot.
And would you explain just to the folks here, what are alternate paths to instruction versus a certified teacher?
Right. So a certified teacher has gone through an education program and, you know, has their license, have taken the tests and everything. And a lot of the teachers that we're getting to fill the vacancies have a degree, not necessarily in education, and they have modules to complete to learn the education-related things. And of course, they have to pass the same tests, but they're in the classroom as they're learning those modules. So it's kind of an OJT, you know, they're learning that classroom stuff while they're working in the classroom. So a lot of potential, but a lot of times they need a little more support than somebody who's been through a traditional program.
And if they're working, they have an alternate, alternate program, do you feel like they know the standards as well as your certified teachers?
I would say standards aren't so much the problem because, you know, they're there for people to read and to understand. I think it's more the teaching strategies and, you know, the bag of tricks, to be less formal about it, that they don't always have.
And I know that you're tight with teachers, but do they get opportunities to walk into, you said you had a fifth grade teacher and the scores were higher, and do they get an opportunity to perhaps walk into, maybe during the planning period, walk into that teacher's classroom to see those bag of tricks?
Yes, we do that with them. We do that with anybody. I know with the new ELA curriculum last year, it threw a lot of people for a loop. And we had veteran teachers that came back this year and they're like, I still am kind of lost with this MyView stuff. And that's exactly what we did. We'd get coverage for them to sit through and watch her classroom. We do that with practices for, you know, behavior management or classroom management as well. You know, we find those experts that we have in our building and we just make the arrangements to have them observe in there.
And you said at one time, for a little while, you were the only administrator.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, and you said now you allow administrators, I think that you have at least two, to
Yes.
walk into the classrooms? I know you said it one before.
Yes. Just, you know, inspecting what you expect. So we give our expectations and our teachers are aware of that. And then we just do some walkthroughs and kind of do a pulse check and make sure we're visible throughout the building.
All right, you are working really hard, I understand it. And you were talking about code of conduct and then the FEV. Can you explain code of conduct and then the FEV? The fidelity of the FEV?
Yes, I talked about the fidelity of the code of conduct because it's helped with a lot of the behaviors and disruptions that kind of get in the way of instruction. So with the new code of conduct that the board put into place and us being able to follow it with fidelity, we see a lot more structure to our day.
Are you using the term fidelity, meaning we're enforcing it the way it's supposed to be enforced?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I appreciate that. Do you find that we are that code of conduct is enough? Or do we perhaps still need to tighten?
I feel like it's working for us. I definitely do. And the FEV tutors are, it's a company that we are using some of our Title I funds to, they strive to keep a one-on-one tutor relationship. It's virtual. So when the students sign on through FEV, they have headphones and they have a live one-on-one person that will go through things with them. It will help them with their homework. It'll, review different assignments, that the teacher is kind of driving.
Do other schools use that, or?
I do know Lamira is using it, and I don't know of anyone else because I spoke to her before we did that.
And are you the one who found that?
No, they were using it before.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, does anyone else have questions?
Madam Chair Lady, I certainly do.
Thank you.
Thank you, first off, and congratulations
Thank
on your post, your new post. We, Dr. Wright's putting a lot of emphasis on restructure and reorganization. I think that's very important, and I commend everybody involved in that. And so thank you. The task is ahead of you for sure. There's no question about that. I just have a few questions. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire them. It's kind of generally the same questions I'll ask everybody. So you mentioned teacher shortages. Obviously, we have that. What's your footprint? What's your position?
Right now?
Yes.
Right now, I have a long-term sub in kindergarten. I have a long-term para in kindergarten, and I have a long-term art teacher.
Okay. And so what I guess clearly
And I'm sorry, I left off 2 special ed.
Okay. So, and do you have, well, that actually leads me to another question. As far as special ed, is that enough for you? Because I understand that special needs is resource intensive, and is that enough for you? Do you have enough resources to, cover those key areas?
Our special ed population is large and growing.
Right, that's why I asked.
Yes.
So
very
2
much
is
so.
enough?
I have 2 vacancies.
Oh, 2 vacancies, okay. And
Yeah.
is that hurting your abilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Because-
obviously, we know that, right, those folks are hard to come by, but just highlighting that I
Right.
think is important.
Now, I do have, I interviewed 2 virtual just this week that
Oh,
I'm
great.
trying to get on board.
Great, well, I'll be
So,
prayerful that
Yeah.
works out. That's really good to hear. What's your average classroom size?
Our classes, no one has any more than 25.
Okay. So it's not.
18 to 23 is probably the
Okay,
average.
good. All right, so that sounds to me, and I could be wrong, it sounds to
Yeah.
me doable.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned school climate. What are the factors that feed into school climate? Is that surveys with staff and teachers? Okay, so what were they telling us?
A lot of different things. A lot of the I believe this part of the climate comes from the students too.
Sure.
And then you're at the whim of a 5th grader, so
Understood.
there's always that.
Sure.
But just different things about the environment. Do they feel engaged in their class, or do they feel heard at school? So
Okay, and
different
what are you
things like
doing to address those things?
I looked into some things to put into place from last year. I went
Okay.
for capturing kids' hearts,
Sure.
which is definitely a climate
Okay.
restructure. That was beginning of November, I believe.
Okay.
But it's a kind of encompassing way to, just ways you interact with kids that build them up and build those relationships and, not drill into
Sure.
them so they feel safe, they feel like performing, and they
Understood.
feel
In my
motivated.
understanding, that Cherryville is one of our schools that has a high rate of poverty, children that live in poverty, and high rates of IEPs and disabilities. So that is obviously a challenge.
Yes.
I don't think there's anyone in this room that doesn't deal with those things. But some of our schools are a little more top-heavy in that way. That said, are there, as far, so what, unfortunately, what we're asking you all to do is kind of, in some ways, fix the family, right? And I know that that's a subject that we don't like to broach very often, right? And, but I'm gonna do it. That said, what are we doing as far as, I look at accountability as being a key function, a key element of, and this isn't to be ugly or, or put people on the defensive, but we talked about absenteeism and things like that. What are we doing as far as, and I'm not sure what tools you have at your disposal, but what are we doing to make sure that the families have onus on their children's education? Because we can't put that on the teacher.
Right.
Right? That's not what we hired them to do, unfortunately. We don't have the resources to do that. So it's a long question to ask, what are we doing to engage the family and to make sure they understand that they are accountable for their children's education as well?
Right. And we do have those. We do have a parent facilitator, and we host different events throughout the year, and our parent facilitator has been in the community for years and has a great relationship within the community.
Okay.
But in terms of, you said that some of our schools are heavier with, special ed population and/or poverty, and we almost need more resources because our babies are starting behind where
Sure.
the others are.
Understood. That's
So, we have one assistant principal, we have one counselor, we have a social worker who comes one time per week.
Okay.
And those are resources that can all help us to reach in to do some of those things. But we've got the other 485 too that we're trying to maintain.
Sure.
So, typically we assign those additional resources based on a numbers game. So if you have more than 600 students or something, then you get additional support in that way. But schools like Cherryvale, we may not have the numbers, but with numbers we have, bring with them a lot of need, a lot of
Understood.
support to where
Correct.
we have to provide more than some other schools.
That's true, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Thank you for stating that much clearly. And this isn't to put anybody on the spot,
Right.
but I'm going to do it anyway. Is the district working with those, with you all? Are they being responsive to those? And I understand. Listen, we have finite resources, and everybody needs them
Right.
in various locations. But are we looking holistically, and is it meeting? Do you see kind of the long-term plan? Are you being heard?
Yes, I
What
feel like I'm
asking.
very supported by the
Okay.
district office, yes.
Excellent.
And we do have a process in plan with attendance plans, if a child is absent more than so many days.
Sure.
First stop is the teacher does need to call to check on the student, then our attendance person will follow up, our counselor helps with that as well,
Sure.
to get attendance intervention plans in
Perfect.
place.
Well, I have two more things, and then I'm done. Okay, so this 9 o'clock comes way too, I don't know how you all do it. But first, Clarendon County just went through a audit, well, not really an audit, an IG investigation, and some of the things that were found were attendance related. And attendance obviously is its own very structured, state requirements. And when they fall off, and correct me if I'm wrong, when unfortunately children get too many absences, they are disenrolled, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so that affects dollars, right? And so it sounds, I guess this is more of a statement than anything. We have to be very careful about how we broach that, because that's direct funding that we're talking about, could get us in a whole lot of trouble, so.
And the process that's in place, that doesn't happen often, because I believe
Okay,
it's
good.
10 that they have to be disenrolled.
Sure.
But we have steps that start on like day 2.
Okay.
This person gets involved, and after this many days, these people are involved.
Good
and
deal.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, my last question, this is more of a technical one. Bus driver, obviously, so, I'm sure you have some students that are authorized
Yes.
transportation. Do you have perpetually late buses, and are they affecting your ability to administer education?
It was much worse last year.
Okay.
Last year, we had 2 routes and 1 driver. So they would pick up the first one, come back and get the second one.
Okay.
But this year, we
Do you
have
know the
2
time off
routes.
the top of your head, like when they would normally what time were all your students in class ready to go? Was it hours after the fact?
It's about 45 minutes.
45, okay, all right. Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
No problem.
And we're working hard on getting this bus situation fixed. District's taking a very aggressive approach, and I'm happy to hear all that, so thank you. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, please let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. And
Yes,
do we
ma'am.
have any questions from anybody? Is anybody virtual? Do we have any questions from anybody who is virtual? Okay, if not, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Healy. At this time, Ms. Dantzler, if you'll come forward. This is Ms. Dantzler, proud principal at Ari Davis College Preparatory Academy.
Good morning. So I am excited to share with you as the newly appointed principal at Ari Davis College Preparatory Academy as of July 1st, where we are, as you know, we are unique, and I'm going to give you a number, and I would like for everyone to hold that number in their head because it's going to be very important as we proceed. The number is 10. I need everyone to hold on to the number 10 as I go through this presentation. I'm ready. So that is our beautiful school. Ari Davis is rich in history and legacy, as many of you know. The community, a very trusting and supportive community. Ari Davis is the only pre-K through 8 school in our district. We have approximately 384 students. We have 132 middle school students and about 252 elementary students. Right now, Ari Davis meets our needs as far as size, but of course, if we grow any bigger, we will have some challenges. So I'm ready. Ari Davis, the vision that was in place as when I arrived was that we would be committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. And our mission statement is that we are committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. So our data, the unique thing about Ari Davis is that we receive 2 report cards. We receive a report card for our elementary, and we receive a report card for our middle school. So our elementary school, of course, this year received a score of 28. We were about 5 points below what would be considered below average. And then to, of course, get an average on your report card, you need a 42. If you click on, Shantae, if you click on the academic achievement, right there where it says academic achievement, I have a link there that will take you to our report card. I just pulled this data directly from the State Department. And there are links there that show you how the elementary students performed in ELA and math. If you click where it says academic achievement. Okay. And so just in those links there that are, it just breaks out our performance levels, of course, in ELA for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. And of course, we also could, in the preparing for success, you can see our science, 4th grade science. And then the other categories of student progress below average, and school climate was below average. If you go to our next slide,
Mine isn't either. Mine is not either. It's not open.
It's working for me,
Your academic achievement is?
all of the links.
Huh.
Ms. Scott, you may have to minimize the, I'm not sure, that's what I have to do.
okay. So for middle school, of course, we were also unsatisfactory. We received a school rating of 26, and we were just 3 points away from a below average. And of course, to make average, you need a 36. When I have shared with our parents and our community members, I was aware of the data for our school when I arrived. And so because we do get some of our data reports early in the summer. And so when I arrived, I was able to look at that data. And immediately I started with a 30, 60-day plan. And my first, and here we are, the first things that we did under that 30-day plan, if you click one more time, it tells you that, we reviewed and analyzed that data. Of course, we looked at state, we looked at the district and school data. And then in the beginning of when I first arrived, I began to share my vision and goals. And I met with the leadership team extensively in the first 30 days. I also met with other stakeholders. I held getting to know you meetings with all the teachers and students and parents to share out, where we were and where we were going to work towards. I began immediate collaboration with our South Carolina Department of Education transformation coach. R.E. Davis does have a transformation coach. And she and I began to review our school improvement plan, and we also, because we are have the designation of underperforming, we began to review the continuous improvement plan and the rubric for our school. Of course, as you can see, it's highlighted and underlined. Filling vacancies was very much a part of what I was focused on when I first arrived, the beginning of year planning and implementation, and also beginning teacher observations when we started school. And of course, because of the underperforming designation, R.E. Davis receives federal funding we have Title I, we have ATSI, and we have CSI, state and federal. When we moved to our 60-day plan, when we got to the 60th day of school, the only things that changed are what's highlighted. Now, rather than reviewing, we began to monitor and evaluate our goals. It was a leadership team. We meet weekly. I began having more meetings with the community partners. The Eastern alumni came in to visit with me. I've had partnerships come in from several of the faith-based, the pastors from the faith-based community. We also began to implement our school improvement plan and our continuous improvement plan. And then, of course, working on filling our vacancies, that has continued, and monitoring the budget of our Title I budget and all the federal funds we receive. And our last, then in moving into our 90 days, the only thing that changed there was collaboration for me has really increased, meeting with many different stakeholders. But I was fortunate enough, Dr. Wright provided me with a principal mentor, and she has been very helpful. I've also continued to work with that transformation coach, and we're continuing to just monitor our school improvement plan and our continuous improvement plan. When it comes to vacancies, I can go ahead and kind of answer that question for you now. At the highest point last year, there were 12 at R.E. Davis. We are now down to 3. We are missing a PE teacher, a music teacher for the elementary side, and 1 middle school English. So all of the other vacancies are filled. I will share with you, though, that I have 10 teachers in our building who are, as Ms. Healy explained earlier, who are alternative pathways. That means they did not go through a traditional educational program. So we have 3 induction teachers, and 2 of those induction teachers are international teachers. So just to kind of help you with our staff there. So our goals, what was our focus when the leadership team and I came together? What did we focus on? The first thing was building relationships. It had been a difficult year at R.E. Davis last year with the vacancies that were there. And so we had to focus and put a lot of effort on building relationships with students, families, the teachers, everyone. We had to make sure that all of our staff and our students and our families knew that we were there to meet their basic needs, make sure that they were healthy and safe, and provide that social emotional support. We moved to also really looking at our multi-tiered system of supports, but a specific emphasis was put on Tier 1. What is happening during Tier 1 instruction, which is the main instruction that students get in the classroom each day. And we really have spent a lot of time, the instructional coaches and the leadership team and I, digging into our Tier 1 instruction. And then we also moved to, we knew that we had to put some structures and systems in place. There were some things that we had to get in place to help move our school forward. So the next slide shares with you what are some of the things that we have actually done and put in place in this short time. Of course, curriculum instruction being a focus, data, culture and climate, and professional development. Those were the 4 areas. I also have to tell you that not only do we have to work on these areas each in their own entity, but we have to work on belief systems of our staff. Until I am able to help our staff believe in the importance of the curriculum and instruction, believe in the importance of data, believe in culture and climate, and believe in the impact of PD, that is our first thing. That's why that says shared goals. We all have to be in the same place, moving in the same direction. Our next area that we've been working on is, if you click there, is collaboration, of course. Our teachers attend weekly PLCs each week on Thursday. They don't ask, they know. They meet every Thursday with their instructional coaches. We have weekly staff meetings. There's teacher observations daily throughout the building. We have had great collaboration with our district leadership. Just a day or 2 ago, I was the math coordinator was at school with me. We were looking and talking about ways to move our school. I've met with our ELA, the science, every academic leader at our school has come and met and collaborated with our team to try to help us come up with a plan to move forward. Lots of observations and collaboration, book studies. We're involved in book studies with our transformation coach from the State Department. And basically in that what a book study does, we're reading a book and going through and looking at best practices. What are best practices to coach teachers to be better teachers? How it's also great for the leaders also in the building. We also are having that opportunity to learn and grow together and grow in our capacity. We've extended our community outreach. I started off the year with a popsicle with the principal. We've got wonderful partnerships with Safe Federal Credit Union, Concord Presbyterian Church, Beulah AME Church, Good Samaritan Church, the Eastern Alumni. We have a lunch buddy program and mentoring for our middle school girls. Some of the structures and systems that we've worked on, we came to a consensus and have a lesson plan format. We have common planning times, set times for intervention. We are implementing MTSS with Fidelity, using our Elliott observation tool to monitor our teachers. We're using our LMS, our Schoology, our management system. We've got an after-school program in place for our students, and we are consistently having leadership and staff and department meetings across our school. We're involving our parents every step of the way. Cannot do this without them. So we have parent workshops. We had a beautiful grandparents lunch and Veterans Day program. We just had a parent university academics night. Weekly, I have made sure to we have the system, the Blackboard system through our district. Every Sunday night, my parents hear my voice. I call every Sunday, updates for the week, what's happening, what's coming up. And we are utilizing our social media platforms. So we're just working and get our parents and our community members back invested in our school. So just our next steps, what are we looking at? We've already begun planning and talking about the second semester. And so as we come to a close, we are looking at strengthening, continuing to work on that Tier 1, that main instruction in the classroom. One thing I am excited about, I had 2 of my international teachers go to Alice Drive Middle School to visit and observe. They went for half a day. They went to 3 different classrooms, and Miss Presley partnered with me, and my instructional coach one of the instructional coaches went with them, and it was a fabulous experience. My international teachers came back fired up, and that's what I was hoping for. So we are going to continue that partnership. We are going to use a co-teaching model with our interventionists. Interventionists, as Ms. Healy explained, are looked at as master teachers because they're no longer classroom teachers, but they have an expertise. I want to utilize them in not only to provide intervention to students, but support in the classroom. So we're going to be doing more push-in with them, where they'll push in, do a co-teaching with that teacher, and provide support to those students in small groups. So that's where we're going with our Tier 1. We want to increase the rigor. We know that a large percentage of our students are not performing well in ELA, math, or science. So that means working with the teachers more closely to deconstruct standards during that PLC time, collaborating with the teachers and the instructional coaches to build assessments. What we're doing at our school this second semester, they're going to start working. We used our federal funding to purchase a platform where Progress Learning, where they can create assessments during those PLC meetings. So the teachers will work together, make a 10-question assessment, go back, implement that as a part of their week when they're doing their lesson that week, and then come back the next week with that data. Okay, let's dig in. Let's look and see, where are we now? How did it go? And if someone did really well, then we're going to say, okay, what did you do? How did you get that? Just to begin to get that collaboration among our teachers and working again to strengthen that Tier 1 and increase that rigor. And of course, vertical planning. I have the unique ability to vertical plan because I'm preschool through 8. So when you have 10 grades, you remember 10 that I gave you, the number 10? R.E. Davis has 10 grades. 10. Remember my number 10? 10. 10 grades. That creates some unique situations and some unique possibilities, but it brings about some challenges as well. And I'm excited for the second semester. We're going to do something I learned at a conference I attended. We went to a Cognia conference, and a principal there shared a strategy that she called 30 for 30. She said for 30 minutes, she took 30 students random and sat down and talked to them about the state of the school. So who better than to give me my heartbeat and tell me where we are, tell me what my pulse rate is, than our students. And so that is where we are at R.E. Davis. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, and I do have is on now. I'd like to say this. I have many grandchildren, but I have a granddaughter from Campobello, South Carolina, and she attended a 10 grade elementary school.
Yes.
There are many wonderful things about that. By the time she was in 3rd grade, everybody knew her. By the time she was in 8th grade, they were family.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And no matter where she goes in that town, somebody knows her.
That's right.
So I think that is an opportunity. I have been to your school, not this year, but several times. Do you still have AVID?
Yes, we still have AVID. What we decided to do, since I was the new leader coming in, and I'm very familiar with AVID from my previous school, AVID had been discontinued last school year. So what we did was I did speak with everyone in federal programs and the academics team, Dr. McLeod, that I wanted to bring AVID back because we're a college preparatory school.
Yes.
And so AVID has that whole program really works toward preparing all students for college and careers. And so we are going to begin our implementation of doing staff meeting and professional development in January. This first semester, it was all about leadership. If leadership can't speak it, say it, talk it, then it's going to be very difficult to push out that initiative and reinstate that initiative. So we have spent this first semester engrossing ourselves and learning more about AVID as a leadership team with the plan to roll that out again and in January.
Okay, who is your AVID teacher?
I do not have one.
But you will.
I hope so.
Okay, all right. I agree with you. I've seen the program in action.
ma'am.
I've experienced it. I
Yes.
know it works.
Yes.
And thank you for reviving that.
Yes.
I also know that at one time, and I hope you still have it, Sumter Education Foundation contributed to a reading room. Do you still have the
We
reading room?
still have our reading room.
Do the students use it?
Yes, ma'am, they are. We
And the
have
teachers?
also revamped that. The schedule is out. The teachers are using it, and the students are using that room. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That
Yes, ma'am.
that would give us great pleasure to
Yes.
help you with that. Are you receiving help from the Department of Education for the professional learning opportunities?
I am.
All right.
We are.
And then I assume you're also receiving the funding that
We
helps.
are.
All right. How many literacy coaches do you have? And are you calling the literacy coaches instructional coaches?
So she is a part of that instructional leadership team. So I have one literacy coach, and I have two instructional coaches. Last year there was only one, and I did use the funding this year to bring a second instructional coach back so that we could dedicate an instructional coach to the middle school side and dedicate an instructional coach to the elementary side.
Thank you. And do you have interventionists?
I do. I have two reading interventionists and two math.
All right. And regarding the code of conduct, are you finding it, the word before was the fidelity with the code of conduct. Do you have difficulty enforcing it? I think perhaps discipline was a problem in prior years. And are you able to grab hold of that code of conduct and make it serviceable?
Yes. So most definitely, the new code of conduct has helped our school and our students tremendously. We are enforcing it with fidelity, and there has been a decrease, and I can provide that data. I have it in another presentation, but we, one of the things that we had to do, as I told you in the slideshow, or as I shared with you, relationship. Until we have relationship with the student, no code of conduct, nothing works. You have to have a relationship with the kids. They have to have a relationship with the teachers. So that is something, as the new principal, I stressed, because then you can put those structures and systems in place, and we can use that code of conduct. And our students are very compliant, but their principal and their assistant principal are very visible. We're fortunate. We're very small. Most of our middle school classes are all on one hall. So my assistant principal or we are there at the change of every class. Earlier, you probably heard my phone go off because we have alarms set on the phone. So when the change of class comes, our alarms go off on our phone because we are unique. We have elementary. We don't have a bell system. So I don't have bell. My middle school students don't have to get to hear a bell. So teachers have to keep up with the time. But what we do is we have our phone set. We're on that side of the building being visible. But yes, the code of conduct has truly helped with our discipline. And we are really, our students, the classroom teachers, structure, systems in place, and all of those things have really improved at R.E. Davis.
And, we will be relooking at that. Do you feel like it is tight enough, or are there areas you would like to see a little bit stronger?
It is working well for our elementary students, and thus far for R.E. Davis, it's working well for our middle school students.
Thank you. And regarding fine arts, do you still have your band program? I remember you had an outstanding band teacher.
I still have band. We have band. We have art as our electives. We have PE as an elective, and that's it. The unique thing about us, our size, we don't have a lot of students, but we do not have all of the electives and programs that many of the other middle schools have. So our students only have the opportunity to go to band, they go to PE, they have an art class, they have research a research elective that they do as a part of the media center, and that's it.
So no chorus.
We don't
At
have a
the- at the
chorus. We
moment.
don't have a
Well,
at the moment. I
Are
like
you
that.
looking
Ms.
toward
Disney.
that?
Yes, we have with the chorus program. Of course, teachers is going to be our number one. We have a music vacancy, so that speaks to that a lot. But you also have to build. Students have to have that love for chorus and be motivated to do that. And right now in this group that we have, we didn't have a lot of students who wanted to take chorus.
Okay.
So
What about absenteeism? I know we heard from Cherryville that's something that has to be addressed somehow. How about for R.E. Davis?
it's actually not. It's actually not for us. Elementary, we stay 90% or above. We do see in our middle school, we fluctuate between 85 and 90. But for the most part, our students come to school. I can also tell you as well, we don't have a bus issue. I can stand before you and tell you today, I don't have a bus issue. My students get to school every day. They're picked up on time, and they are delivered to me on time every day. I do have that unique situation, though. I'm on an elementary schedule. So my middle school kids have to start the day with the elementary. So our day starts at 7:30. We're the only middle school that dismisses at 2:15.
And regarding your international teachers,
Yes.
I know the biggest. We lived overseas for many years, and I do know that American children sometimes have a different culture.
Yes.
And are they being have they adjusted in that they're not ready to pack their bags and go home? Are they adjusting and able to come to have that strong discipline instinct, whereas maybe in another culture they wouldn't have to deal with that?
Right. So the two international teachers are the two teachers who I sent to Alice Drive first to help with that, to help with the management piece as well as the structure of the classroom and what that's like here in the United States. My two gentlemen are not planning on leaving. They love R.E. Davis, and they speak highly. If you ask them about support, they speak highly of the support that we have. They have their mentor that's assigned because they're induction teachers, but the leadership team, we also, each one of us has taken on to meet with them and check in with them weekly as well. They had to acclimate, of course, to the culture and students here, but my two gentlemen are doing wonderful. They're teaching math, and they know their content area, and they're making the adjustments every day. They came back, like I said, from Alice Drive Middle, excited, fired up, made some changes immediately after that to change some of the way they were doing things, but they're doing well.
Thank you. Do you think that, I know they know their content, but are they doing well with the standards for each grade level?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's good. All right, thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I have just a few questions. Principal Dancer, thank
Yes.
you for that wonderful presentation. I took good notes, and I've noticed a theme about you, by the way, is visionary. And so when I saw this when I visited you last year at Manchester, I saw the same sort of things. And so as I was writing down key items of focus where, you're putting effort, I'm seeing partnerships, mentors, belief systems, reviewing best practices, community outreach, right? And those sorts of things, as I stated before, we know that education administration isn't just teachers in a classroom with students. There's a whole lot of feeder elements that go into that. We're talking about parts of the community that deal with a lot of poverty, a lot of generational traumas, things like that. And so what I'm seeing is you're reaching out far beyond what just a typical bureaucratic hierarchy would be doing, and you're meeting these folks where they're at. That is absolutely commendable and absolutely what needs to happen. So my hat's off to you. I love that. Thank you for addressing the bus issue. Of course, I was going to ask that question. Was this, I know you've been in the seat for only a year now, and I'm hoping to see, I'm really excited to see sort of what your plans kind of turn into as far as data and measurements and increases. Were there bus issues last year? I mean, did you all deal with this?
No,
Okay.
no.
And I find that's actually a very good point you made. I didn't even think about that as far as, it being a preparatory elementary/middle school. There are opportunities there. And that might be something we want to consider in the future to kind of, as we consolidate efforts across the district. So thank you for bringing that up. I think it's a good point. So my questions are, what is your student enrollment right now?
384.
384, okay, and you mentioned that you were down 12 staff, or 12
Last
vacancies
year.
last year?
Last
And you're
year.
to 3 now?
Yes.
What's your magic? What's your magic bullet?
I don't know if there's any magic.
Yeah.
I do want to commend, because a good many of the vacancies were, the former principal worked on those before I
Okay,
arrived. So
sure.
when I came, she had gotten a good many of them down.
Excellent.
Just interviewing, being approachable
Sure.
and being honest.
Absolutely.
And being transparent. That's
Sure.
the only thing I can tell you. And
Okay,
when
well,
I have
thank you.
interviews, I'm transparent, but I do sell it. I do
Right.
sell
Oh, yeah.
Ari Davis.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You sold
the,
it to me today.
Yeah, that's
so
the world
I'm
that
coming
we are
out
in.
soon. Dr.
So we
Wilson,
have to
teacher.
sell. We have to be marketable. We have to
Sure.
appeal
That's
to the everyone coming in and show them that we're not perfect. We have some things we got to work on. We have some challenges. I shared the 10 with you all just to for everyone to know that it's 10 grade levels. It's 10 assessments. We take preschool assessments all the way through 8th grade. You're talking PSAT, EOCs. That there's a lot. That's why I shared the 10, because there are challenges.
Sure.
But we're making the best of it.
Well, it sounds
We're
like it,
taking what we have and we're not worried about the things we can't control.
Sure. Well, thank you. That's, I think, very important.
Yes.
Oftentimes, we as a board in the district, I think sometimes, and I'm not speaking for the district, but we look at sort of just the data and we forget that this is humans, this is human.
Correct.
We have to look at, all facets of this. And so I can't wait to see, I'm very excited to see the change in course under your leadership. And so one thing I wanted to mention is more of a kind of a mentioned question is you mentioned professional development. I kept hearing kind of that recurring theme. And in my opinion, my 20 years in the Air Force, professional development was the key. It was the key. And it doesn't mean because obviously, like you mentioned, some of our staff and teachers through alternate pathways don't get that traditional learning and experience. And so they come to us a little, kind of needing that extra support. And I think that us focusing on that is, we got to build that team. You can't win this game without building that team around you. And I think with Dr. Wright focusing so much on professional development, really looking forward to seeing what the district is going to do with that across the district. Looking forward to some updates on that. But internally too, I think it's very important for you to get after that. And I'm just very happy. Obviously the numbers are not wonderful yet, but I'm very excited to see where you take this. So that was more of a statement than anything.
Thank you.
And I hope to come out and see you
Thank
soon.
you. Yes.
All right,
Please,
take
I
care.
invite all of you to please come and
Oh, yeah.
visit us anytime.
Sure.
The
I'll
doors
let
are always
Superintendent know
open.
first, so I don't get
Yes.
myself in trouble.
Yes.
And
Thank
let's
you.
ask if anybody virtually has a question. And if not, thank you for presenting.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And at this time, Dr. Maggie Wright from the Gator Nation, Lakewood High School, and Miss Henry Hand. Miss Henry Hand also serves as the CNI Assistant Principal, Instructional AP.
Yes. Good morning. As Dr. McLeod said, we welcome you to Gator Nation. we'll begin our presentation with our opening video. Do we want to wait on Mr. Zell? Trustee Zell? Okay, all right.
Advertise your school. I think you guys have some events, some performances coming up.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell us about those? What's coming up?
So we have our concert. Well, we got a couple things coming up next week. We have, let's see, over 40 kids being inducted into the National Honor Society. And so we have a program for that next Tuesday evening. And we have a holiday band concert that's coming up on the 19th of December. Were those what you were referring to?
Anything,
Okay.
advertise your school.
Let's see,
So-
what else do we have? Of course, our sporting event, basketball season has started, so that takes a lot of our time. There's never a dull moment at the high school. There's always something going on. And so just listening to the elementary schools and the K-8 school, I'm like, the high school is a whole different animal, right? There's always something going on. But so those are two, mostly sports right now. We have a holiday concert coming up with our band. We had to postpone our chorus program, chorus holiday program, and then we have our induction ceremony for National Honor Society.
Thank you. So I think we're ready.
It's okay. It's okay. Good morning again, and we would like to welcome you to Gator Nation. We understand that this meeting is about underperforming schools, but we'd like to start with something positive because it's not just about academics is how we're measured, but there's so many other great things that are happening at Lakewood, and we'd like to begin with our presentation, please. Go the first slide, baby. The first one, there is a video right there. No? Oh, no. Okay, well, oh, there it is. Oh, it's not moving. So this is where Mrs. Disney, we were going to showcase some of the great things that are happening, but it's not, the PowerPoint is not moving through. So we, let's put it in the background. Yes. I'm stuck. I can't hear you. Thank you so much, Ms. Scott. Okay. So you can, please excuse me, I'm a little congested this morning. We're ready for the additional slides, Mrs. Scott. So this presentation, we share it with our parents as required by our district and the State Department of Education of how we're going to move our school forward, goals. So we'd like to share with you some information on school improvement designations. Of course, we were identified as a CSI school, which is the Comprehensive Support and Improvement School back in for the 21-22 school year. With that identification and we were identified based on our graduation rate falling under the 70%, lower than 70% for that school year. And our college and career readiness. So with that identification, we have been recognized as a CSI school, and we received technical funds for federal and state funds for Lakewood, and we also received a state transformation coach who is Ms. Amy Dillinger. We wanted to share the ratings because for the new year, for the 23-24 school year, the ratings are different. But the rating that we were based on, the ratings that we received that qualified us for a CSI school was the 21-22. So this past school year, we wanted to share the comparison of our points where we ended up with 32 points out of 100. So we're still an underperforming school. We wanted to share that out of the possible 25 points for last year for academic achievement, and that's our EOC areas, we received a 5.12. Again, like every other school has talked about, for us as the EOC, we have teachers, we have a lot of international teachers who are teaching in our EOC areas. Those teachers are no longer, a couple of those math teachers are no longer with us, but we have vacancies in those spots this year. We also have, so we're underperforming in definitely our Algebra 1, Algebra 1, our English 2 is progressing, and our U.S. history, biology is progressing as well, but that's our EOC areas. Preparing for success, we got 1.73 points out of a possible 10. Our school climate, 1.67, that's where we did a school survey. We tried that survey so many times to get above 85%, but we're having technical issues for days and days and days, and could not complete the assessment after much trying. A highlight for us is our multilingual learners, 6.15% out of 10, and I think our teacher said she was the highest across the district as far as improving learning for multilingual students. Our grad rate, out of 25 points, we got 8.84. And so again, this is for students who were non-GR 20. So we were still dealing with students who were along the COVID area. They came in during the 9th grade year, so of course grad rate goes the 4 years later. So we're experiencing, when I got there in 21-22, there were a lot of students who were just not coming back to school. It was during COVID, they were dropping out, they were going to work, and we're still struggling with a lot of that. With students not wanting to return even to this day. They're going to work, they're wanting to go to adult ed, which will eventually help us now, but they're just not wanting to come to school, and some of them were so close to graduating. And then our college and career readiness piece, and we'll talk a little bit more about those two areas later. So we got 8.25%. So our overall rating for last year was 32 points out of 100. We wanted to share, because there is light, we see light at the end of the tunnel with some of the new indicators for the upcoming year, and we just wanted to share that with you that, of course, the academic achievement will still be the 25 points. Preparing for success will still be 10 points, but now we have school climate is still 5. The multilingual is still 10, but the graduation rate will no longer be 25 points. It will be 19. And high school success, student success is 12, and college and career readiness will not be 25 anymore. It will be 19 points. So we're very hopeful, and we're going to talk about some things that we're doing to track a lot of this later on in the presentation.
So for college or career readiness, these are the indicators that qualify students, and they need to be one or the other to get the points on the school report card. So a student scoring a 20 or higher on the ACT or a 10/20 or higher on the SAT will allow them to become college and career ready. Those are the main two on that side, in addition to the dual enrollment. But even though students take dual enrollment courses, they need to have a C or higher in 6 credit hours or more. So that helps us with our students who are on the early college track, or they are also beginning those dual enrollment courses their junior year. And they can take 2 courses per year, so that is an advantage for us. So those are our main 3 components on the college side, because we do not offer any AP courses or IB courses, and most students don't take the Cambridge International Exam. So those are our 3 main components on the college side. For the career ready side, we do offer the ASVAB assessment multiple times throughout the year, 2 times per semester, and as long as they score that 31 or higher, they are credentialized on the career ready side. The WIN assessment, scoring the silver, gold, or platinum. And then for the CTE completer, they also have to be credentialized with the OSHA or microburst credentialing test in order for that to count. So if they have one or the other, they are not considered career ready. So they have to be a completer with the coursework within the building, as well as taking a credentialized test in order for us to receive those points for that individual student. Then we have the employability credential. Is for students who are on the essential sides with the IEP versus receiving an Academy of Prep assessment with an IEP. And then work-based learning. So work-based learning is a program where the students, if they're going to receive 40 practical hours, but it has to be related to their IGP, even though they may have a job where they work at McDonald's, but their IGP says that they want to be a cosmetologist, where their career goal has to be aligned with their actual work base that they're doing. So working at McDonald's, but my IGP says that I want to be a cosmetologist, are not aligned. So we have to make sure that we are aligning the work-based learning experience with 40 practical hours with their IGP in Power School. So that is how we receive the points for the career ready side.
And I want to just add there, with our credential students, we currently have school-wide 29 credential students, and with this graduating cohort, we have 9, which will impact our cohort, our graduation rate. Okay?
So from the data that we received from the points on the school report card, we were able to come up with 3 goals for this year, which help us also to drive our new vision mission statement. And our number 1 goal this year is to increase the graduation rate, because that is how we were even identified as a CSI school, dropping below the 70%. So as you can see, from 2020 to 2023, we decreased along with the district. But nevertheless, we identified some things that got us there, and it was more so of the documentation. But we drastically decreased a lot, over 10 points, which Dr. Wright mentioned that it is the COVID that got us there, and the students were going to work. And we think that that was our number 1 contributor to losing our students from coming into the building. All right. Some action items that we're taking are having bi-monthly meetings to include a group of people in the building, along with identifying some ones that don't necessarily have direct contact inside of the classroom with them. But we are making an effort to recover our dropout students. So the graduation rate comes from being able to track your students where they went once they left the building. So we have a number of students that are no-shows, so that goes to attendance record keeping as well. So if you would click on the bottom link for improving our tracking measures for our students, and if it doesn't come in the viewing area. Yes.
So
So
I want her to minimize the kids' names. Are you able to do that? I thought about that later, and they didn't want to show the kids' names.
well, the color codes show, everything is color coded, and the green means that those students are actually in the building. We have yellow, we have red, and it's either they were coded as a NS, as a no-show, or a dropout. We were not able to provide documentation, but it helps us out when those parents are able to come in and provide the documentation, say, hello, my student is going to Clarendon County, and we actually receive a records request from the student, from the school that the student is going to. Whether it's by word of mouth, that does us no good in the documentation. So that is how our dropout rate decreased, because we did not have that documentation to say that the student left from Lakewood and went to institution B. So that is where we are improving with all of the people that are involved, with the gear up specialists, our records clerk. We're trying to get the custodians, our cafeteria workers, our bus drivers. We have that list of students who we need to target to find out where they went, bring them in and offer other support to where you can go to adult ed, do the transcript audit, let them know what their options are so that we can get that documentation, let them know that even though you're not in the building, you're still a part of Lakewood and we want the best for you. And Lakewood may not be the fit for you, but here is an option. Our second goal is to increase our EOC scores. Our 4 target areas are ELA, which is the English 2, so it's no longer the English 1 as it used to be, which it was a freshman course, English 1. Then you have the Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. So you can see the total number, the percent is less too, so we don't have any areas that have ever met a 50%. And so that is also attributed to our teachers, several vacancies in all of those areas year after year, not having the right teacher for the course. So we have looked at different measures of strategizing which teachers are best for that particular subject area. We have looked at scheduling measures in terms of not scheduling the EOC courses during the first block, because last year we did have a major issue with buses arriving after first block has ended, which is 10:15. So this year it has improved a lot. But we still did not place any EOC courses in the first block of this year. So hopefully we will see an increase to that. We did have a change in some standards, so we will be, our biology and U.S. history, we'll see a shift in that. Not sure if it will be on the positive or the negative with the new standards, with the teachers and the students. So that's something that we're looking forward to in the new data that is to come with. We have our new assessments taking place right now. We'll see those in the spring. So to attribute to that, we have increased our weekly classroom observations. We have a schedule among the admin team to where we started a rotation with our hallway, and we make sure that we get to every teacher completing weekly observations using the Elliott tool and providing that feedback to them. We have monthly professional developments where we're implementing PLCs, various PLCs, and so that those teachers have time to collaborate, since that does not allow them any time in the day. So we have to meet after school so that they can have that collaboration for common assessments, looking at data, formative and summative assessments to see if my students did well on this particular indicator or standard and mine did not. What did you do differently in your class where your students grasp the concept, and how can we transform that so that we're all on the same page and I can increase the learning in my class as well, along with the monthly department meetings. And those department meetings happen after each department chair meets with district level, and then they bring the information back to the school level and have those conversations at that time. This data represents the college and career readiness, which is our third goal for Lakewood High School, and students can be college or career ready. It does not have to be and so again, we're taking measures to increase those. So again, here, nothing is over 50%. This is the college side of it, showing the dual enrollment in terms of the number of students in the dual enrollment classes, and that the points will come from 11th and 12th graders who have completed 6 hours with a grade C or higher. And I just want to go back and piggyback off of because this is mentioned that the students must have a C or higher with the EOC scores as well. We only get the points if the students score a C or higher, even though a D is passing. A C gives you the quality points when it comes to the report card. So you may have more students passing the test, but all of the scores are not qualifying for the points when it comes to the school report card. And so you don't have to click the link, Ms. Scott. This is another tracking measure that came into place when we received our transformation coach, as well as our new assistant principal, Ms. Grigg. That document allows us to look at the cohort by 9GR, and it's also color-coded so that it lets us know when a student has reached a college or career-ready status, and any student that is not color-coded, those are our target students to get them credentialized in one of those areas. So we're making sure that we are looking at their IGP and aligning it to see if it's going to be best for us to push you to take the ASVAB or the WIN, or do we need to push you on the college side to get you to take these courses. You just need one more course here. Where's the completer? So that color-coded document, just as we saw previously, assists everyone in the building with targeting students and who we need to get at least one color, and we would love for them to be in green versus the red. So chronic absenteeism is any student who misses 50% or more of their instruction day, and it can be excused, unexcused, or suspension. Time away from class is time away from class, whatever the reason may be. And so this is a number 2, I guess to say, which goes along with students not coming back after COVID, as to our students are not in the building to receive instruction. They're just not coming. And so if they're not receiving the instruction, then we can't get them to the necessary routes needed to be successful. And so that's a very high rate, even though as of right now, we have decreased over 10% from looking at your 21-22, we are down a lot, and that is better. Our population has also decreased, even from the beginning of the school year. So with the decreasing population, and that for the 23-24 data, that was as of October. So we are doing the right measures, and I guess it's because the conversation is there now about the FA's failure due to attendance, and so that they know that we are, heels to the ground on holding the students accountable for the amount of time that they have missed. And with that, we do have our attendance clerks who are working hard to get those attendance meetings scheduled for those students and parents to come in so that we can find out why they are actually being absent to see what we can do to assist.
We wanted to share some information because, like Ms. Henry said, students got to be in the building. And we're seeing more of that. But one thing we wanted to highlight when we were talking about our new code of conduct, we've seen it implementing it with fidelity, like my 2 colleagues have said, really just looking at it, ensuring that parents and kids are aware of what the consequences are, and getting support for the most part even from our parents when we have to deem an action. We have seen an increase, particularly this year. We wanted to just highlight, we've seen a decrease, but we wanted to highlight last year incidents with fights across the board, not just fights, but we're highlighting fights because last year we had a total of 68 kids involved in 32 fights at this point last year. At this point. So we went from August 15th to December 5th last year. And so we had 32 incidents. And so our next slide will show you that from August the 3rd to now, we have only had 20 incidents involving 41 students. So we have seen a decrease in the number of physical altercations. And so that's a plus for us because if the kids are there and they're in school, they can get the quality instruction that they need to succeed. So which goes back to the academic parts of it. Okay. And so the journey is never ending. There's always going to be growth, improvements, adversity. You just got to take it all in and do what's right. Continue to grow, continue to live in the moment, by Antonio Brown. And what we're saying is that we realize that there are going to be challenges, there's going to be improvements, there's going to be growth. But what we're going to do is we got lemons and we're going to make lemonade out of it. We're going to do what we need to do to move our school forward. And with that being said, with our goals, go to the next one, our goals that we have, we ended up as a team, as a faculty, with all stakeholders involved. This year, we decided that we needed to rewrite our mission and vision statement. And so we wanted it to be centered around our goals for the year. So we had a meeting, and I told them we just can't say that we're doing something just to be doing it. We need to have it all aligned. And so this year, as a team, we wrote the mission vision. We presented it to our students and our parents. And so we have it before you. We wanted them all to be aligned to the 3 goals. So I'm not going to read that for you. It's there. And so just wanted to know that we did that. And we came up with a new slogan about who we really are. And so we used the Gator as our motto for the slogan. So we said we're guiding achievers towards outstanding results. And that's where the progress is happening. And I think that's it. Our last slide, right? So we can take questions.
Thank you. I assume that you're getting federal and state improvement funds as well as state technical assistant funds. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, we are, state and federal.
And you feel like you're putting that money in the right places. Have you also been receiving Gear Up funding?
Yes, ma'am.
And-
We
and
don't
it-
manage that. It's
Right.
Gear Up funding for the school.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
And we had 3 months ago, I think it was in September, we had the presentation on the Gear Up. And we know that the Gear Up is to try to persuade those young people to go to colleges. Have you had many opportunities to take students to college campuses?
Oh, my goodness. So many opportunities. This is, our senior class is the last, they started 7th grade, and so this is the last group. And so monthly, I can probably estimate at least once a month, they're visiting a college somewhere.
How many students do you think is involved in that program? It should be the whole class.
It should be the whole class, but they've been, well, I'll put it this way. The whole class, the whole senior class has access to the Gear Up program. Now, some may use it for college assistance with the college courses and paying for textbooks, because that can happen through Gear Up as well. And then some are just actively involved with the field trips. So we have probably a good less than 50 students who are actively involved with Gear Up.
And how many seniors do you have?
188.
Okay, all right, so maybe a fourth of them. The absenteeism is really hurts my heart.
Yes.
How many students do you think are involved in Career Center, AP classes, dual enrollment, those opportunities?
So
Maybe
we
a
don't
quarter?
offer AP, we
You
don't offer AP courses yet at
Okay.
Lakewood.
Okay.
We have, our morning session is about 58 for Career Center. Our afternoon is about 40, possibly, so about 90 kids in the Career Center.
All right, let me ask you this, because I was just at the Career Center again. Is persuading the students to take advantage of the opportunities at the Career Center, do you see that as a problem? Could better recruiting be done maybe in freshman, sophomore years? Do you have Mr. Robertson coming out, Dr. Robertson coming out, Dr. Miller coming out to set up tables or to talk to students, to encourage them to go to the Career Center?
Well, we do the Career Center tours every year, so we get a chance to take our sophomores there. But I think, I don't know if there's anything else that Dr. Miller or Dr. Robinson can do, because our counselors really push it. What I do think would be beneficial to Lakewood is that, because I think we have more than we've had before in the past couple of years, was that if there was a way we could have some of those pathways on campus, I think that we would have more kids who would be interested in doing some other things. But a lot of them, they're not interested or they don't want to leave their friends to go to the Career Center. But the numbers are increasing, but I know that maybe on site, if we had some opportunities for them, we would definitely have some kids who were involved.
Perhaps something like FFA or,
Well, we don't have FFA this year, but, because we don't have teachers for that area. But just some other pathways.
okay, let's go back to absenteeism for a minute. Now, it's been a while, but when I taught, there was the State Department had a 10-day limit. After 10 days, you fail the course if they're not excused absences. Has that gone by the wayside?
No, ma'am.
It's still it's still in effect?
Yeah.
It's still in effect, it's just that the parents seem to be unaware. They think that it's something new, and it's not.
Oh, my Lord, it's not new. I retired a good while ago. Maybe we need to send that up as a big advertisement. Maybe that needs to be brought back to the attention of the universe in Sumter County.
Yeah.
Because that used to be a very strong motivator in my classes.
That's statewide, that's not
I know.
unique to
I
Sumter.
know. I was very much aware of that, but thank you for making that public. But at the same time, apparently, some people aren't aware of it. Do you think that absenteeism could be brought under control if we had a person employed at your school who took daily visits to the families of those children who are not coming to school?
Possibly, yes, ma'am. We have our attendance area is so vast.
And I know that. But in the olden days, and I'm just talking about when I was teaching, which was not so long ago, we had a full-time employee who went out and had conversations with grandma, mama, daddy, and it seemed like all of a sudden that child showed up for the classroom. So,
But there's a lot of variables because, like Ms. Henry said, our population area comes from Cherryville area all the way out there, Wedgefield, and so if they miss a bus, they're not coming to school, you know. So it's hard. It's transportation, hard to get there. It's a lot of variables as to why they're not coming.
right. And maybe we need to really address that and find some particular way that it works.
Yeah.
Because absenteeism cannot be tolerated. That's my opinion. As far as the dropouts, to me, if we have something at the school that excites the kid, it seems like we can get them there. So what other kinds of opportunities or classes do you think would help that?
For me, it's hard to say unless it's some type of I think to help, we've been talking about a non-traditional program, like something, maybe offering a school within a school type of model, or offering night school, like 4 to 7 for those students who don't want to come during a regular school day. So we've been meeting on trying to find a good fit, a good program to maybe offer that, so kids can, come during those times.
Even the students who are off grade level, at least by one grade level, letting that be like our target audience. But we just gotta find the right niche to program to get that out, and we have looked into some things, we're just waiting to hear back.
Yeah.
For your transformational coach, is that a topic perhaps you could discuss?
We can, but the high schools are different. My transformation coach responsibilities are totally different than the elementary, middle school. So her focus is grad rate and college and career readiness.
Right.
That's what she's hired to help us with. Unlike before, when I had a transformation coach at Chestnut Oaks, they were holistically helping the school. Now, maybe at some point we'll get to that place, but right now her efforts are to help us improve in those 2 areas.
Okay. And regarding you were saying that right now for EOC, not having a great deal of success, and you mentioned perhaps maybe not having the right teachers for the right fit. Is it possible that, I'm just making this up, but somebody at Crestwood who's had like 100% success, is it possible for perhaps that English 2 EOC teacher could have some time and learn from the Crestwood teacher who's having 100%? Is it possible to put those two together, maybe almost as a coaching situation? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, and it's also something I've shared with, kind of brainstorm a little bit with the executive team a little bit, members of the executive team, about how we could do. I know years ago we had like late arrival for high school folks, and the purpose of my conversation was so that we could have meeting times where those teachers could collaborate, because if they're doing something great at Crestwood that's improving in whatever area, then we want our teachers to be able to get with them and plan. Not so much after school, it's very difficult. People are exhausted by the end of the day, but find a time where they can meet and collaborate.
Absolutely.
And so we've had some discussions about
Right.
that.
For math, for
For all
science.
content, for
yeah,
all
the
content
For the
areas.
EOC particularly.
Yeah.
And regarding the college and career readiness, that's been a state requirement here for several years. Every student should be ready for college and/or career. And so I would suggest that we look at that career center again, maybe come up with your idea of offering something at your school. Thank you very much for working with the students and the teachers.
Thank you.
Madam Chair Lady, I have some questions and statements. Thank you for that that wonderful presentation. Thank you for hosting Mr. Palumbo and I the other day. I just want to get it on record that, Mr. Superintendent, that what I saw out there at Lakewood was no lack of effort and care into what you all are doing. We were unaware showing up that it was the first day of implementation of the metal detectors, and working through that and how that had really sort of changed the dynamic of your academic day. And we was fortunate enough to sit in that meeting. And so we understand. I saw kind of a glimpse into what you all do as far as like just administration, and then how things take away from your sometimes, and this is one of them, can take away from your focus on education. And so that's something that if I asked you the other day, if I could give you a magic wand and you could take something off your plate, what would it be? And of course, that's a kind of a rhetorical question that I always want to be thought about, because this body can help you do that, right? And so that's a kind of invitation to everybody who can hear my voice right now. But also anecdotally, I just want to tell you, and I think Chairwoman Disney made some good points, is just kind of where I come from, is I was, you mentioned truancy officers. Well, going through high school, I was one of those kids who I was nearly a dropout, barely graduated high school, had a truant, I was on probation for juvenile delinquency, all these things. And I remember my truant officer, Mr. Parnell, God rest his soul, he would come knock on my door when I didn't show up to school. And the reason I didn't show up to school most of the time is because I was tired from working all night last night. Absolutely. And that was a regular occurrence. And so when it didn't work out quite, he actually he came and picked me up and drove me to the courthouse to stand in front of the judge and that sort of thing. And so anyway, what I'm getting at is you all are dealing with problems that manifests itself far outside of the classroom. Absolutely. Right? Yes. And anyone who doesn't know that, I would love to have a conversation with them. That said, as I think Chairwoman Disney really brings up a good point when we talk about sort of how do we inspire these kids. A lot of them you talked about in the absenteeism, they want to go to work, right? Name a high school student that wants to go to sit 8 hours a day in a classroom. I don't know many, I got to be honest. Right. So how do we inspire them, right? And the dynamics you mentioned about your school is different than what Cherryville or what R.E. Davis may be dealing with. And so my understanding of your part of Sumter is that these kids are motivated to go work. And so the focus, not necessarily all of them, but the focus is on employment and making money and paying the light bills and things like that, not necessarily, going to college. And so I really appreciate the fact that you brought up a school and within a school. I think that is something definitely we should look at. I think we absolutely have to look at expanding CTE. I think that is the model of the future, especially in manufacturing towns, that Sumter hopes to be and has been working for a decade nearly, or plus for that. And so we have the student body. I'm just really just kind of rambling right here. I just want to make a point. We have the human capital here. We just have kind of traditionally undeveloped them into walking into that workforce. And so that's where I think that this body, with the community, your all's help, we can bridge that gap. So of course we have state requirements on education and measurements and statistics, but those things aren't inspiring those kids down there in your school, a lot of them, First I want to say thank you on reconciliation of records to combat, or to at least assist. It gives us a clearer picture of absenteeism. Records are difficult, so thank you for your attention on that. I think that we all, attendance clerks, need to focus on that, because there may be some of this data inaccurate. It's not painting a picture that says that we're actually worse off than, or better off than we are, or worse off than we are. And so thank you for that. You mentioned internships as well, I believe, in the.
Yes.
I would love to further that conversation here, and maybe not necessarily this committee meeting or today because it's 10:51, but I really, that's something I think that you could, if you put these young people on the right path, just like fine arts or athletics or anything else, you can inspire them to actually meet the minimum requirements and to convince their families to really focus in on that education as well. So now here comes the questions. I just have a few. What is your current vacancies in your certified teaching staff right now?
We have 2 vacancies in math,
Okay,
2 vacancies in biology, 1 in SPED, and 1 English, and 1 social studies.
okay.
But I think he's talking about core.
Oh, yeah,
And
correct.
Spanish.
Yeah,
And Spanish,
certified, core curriculum.
Okay,
Now, I
Spanish.
mean, I'm sure that if we asked about staffing across the entirety of your administration, it's probably a much larger number, obviously, and everybody plays a part in that.
Yes.
But from what I'm seeing and what we've talked about with, across the district, is where we're improving in academics is where we have certified teachers. And where we're not, we don't. And so that's the big hill we have to climb, right? And so and you don't have to answer this right now. I would love to have this conversation. Is what you all are doing internally, if there's anything outside of what the district's doing to sort of incentivize employment, and bringing on new teachers, and sort of that's just, if you put that in a pen, and we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay.
I'm very interested though. The code of conduct, you mentioned the buses. So are we still seeing, I know that we had a really good win recently with that one particular bus that was showing up at 10 to 10:30 every day.
Yes.
And now it's regularly at 9 o'clock.
It's at 9 o'clock.
So we're just getting started, ma'am. I just want to tell you that.
Well, good.
We're not done until that's my goal, and I'm going to keep punching bag until we're done, until we're good. But thank you for that. Please keep that data going. It's
We
because we're
will.
not there yet. And because it's such a foundational process. If our kids aren't in school, they're not learning. And so my one question would be, what are your contributing factors to reducing the chronic absenteeism? Do you have a truancy officer type thing? Is that something that you all are talking about? I know that that's really kind of outside of your realm, but is that something that we could advocate for?
That would
It's kind of an
definitely
open
help.
question, but
That would help to have a truancy officer. Right now, it's just Ms. Hendrihan supervises the attendance
Okay.
department, and so it's her, SRO, and the attendance clerk.
sure. And they have their own plate
Duties.
is full with all their own
They do.
individual requirements. And so I think that that's something, I don't know, I'm not an educator, and in my first year on the board, I don't know what happened with those and why we went away from it. But to have someone that is within the community, that is holding the families accountable, that, our students accountable, and, engaging them, that is a key part of this. And so why we got away from it, I would love to know the answer, but I think that's something we absolutely need to consider advocating for at the least, and maybe putting something in place, internally. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. I just thank you so much for this. And,
Thank you all.
thank you for hosting us. God bless you.
Okay.
Are there any questions from the virtual viewers? Thank you very much for coming today.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, just to recap, just as you heard from our highest performing schools last month, these three school leaders and their staffs noted the two most important factors affecting student achievement, and you've stated it also. That's a stable, high-quality staff and the relationships. It boils down to that. And those relationships affect the cultures in the schools and the communities. Ms. Nisney, at this time, we have a meeting after this meeting. So if you don't mind, if we could postpone our last thing on the agenda. We also will have something to share with the board as far as some instructions with screenshots on how to work within the website. It's very easy to manipulate, but it is an interactive website, so you can look at that yourself.
I mean, I want to honor what you guys have on your plate. So, of course, may I ask that we just put it on the next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if that's okay, let's all agree to do that. So that takes us to, was it recommendations, next steps for growth? Is that on the agenda?
And Dr. Wright, did you want to add?
Actually, with the vice chair or the chair of the committee's permission, I have some things I would like to recap that I think are important. Kind of like I did the last time, Ms. Disney. Yeah. So first of all, I want to say, because I think it's important, that we heard some amazing presentations today. It is evident, in my opinion, based on about 26 years of doing this work and serving as a principal for 6 years, that these principals, all three of them are very on top of what is happening in their schools and what needs to happen. The members of the board that are here probably would remember that we talked about some administrative adjustments back at the beginning of the year, and those conversations were a bit intense. But I think now, hopefully, we understand why some of the moves that were made because it is important, just as it is inside a school with teachers assigning them to the right place. It is also critically important to have the right leader at the right school doing the right work. So just want to remind us of that. I'll talk a little bit about code of conduct in a minute. Let's talk about what we heard today, kind of from a Cliff Notes version, if you will. Ms. Healy started off talking about teacher vacancies, and we learned a few weeks ago, as Dr. McLeod just alluded to, that excellent and good schools that we have in the district typically did not have teacher vacancies. However, those schools that we right now are classified as underperforming well, no matter what categories they're in, they typically do. So one of the things we have to do is find ways to attract people to do the work in these schools, which is unique in nature. I want to be clear, work in Cherryvale and R.E. Davis and Lakewood is different than work at Alice Drive and Hillcrest. It's a different set of students. The needs are different. The at-risk population requires different attention to get that work done. Doesn't mean it can't be done. It's just different work. We also heard the principal talk about creative scheduling. Principal found out that Teacher X was doing a very good job, and so we spreaded the wealth to make sure that it spanned across additional grade levels to affect learning on a greater scale. That is absolutely a great strategy to improve instruction. And then leadership that understands the assignment is a category I use for the third one now. Mrs. Healy didn't exactly say this, or she kind of did, but I'll put it in William's words. The principal stated that she and the assistant principal are, quote, elementary people. Now that's my quote, not hers. Therefore, they understand the uniqueness of elementary curriculum and the needs of K-5 students and teachers. So as a superintendent, while most of my background is in secondary ed, I understand the need to ensure that elementary schools are served by elementary people. So when we're making some of those logistical moves, we understand that. And then we also heard, lastly, for that section at least, at-risk schools and communities need more resources proportionally speaking. The needs are greater, so therefore any additional things that we can invest in our at-risk schools and populations, whatever that means these days, is important. Under Mrs. Dantzler's presentation, first of all, we have a new principal there, as we know. I will just stop by saying I am proud that the new leadership is more aligned with the uniqueness of the school's needs. She used 10 grades. I never really thought about it that way until today. But that's exactly what she has. She is serving 10 different. So let me say it this way, because now that she brought that to my attention, we think of a K-8 as being two schools. You know, we think of it as being a combination of elementary and middle school, which is what it is. But the uniqueness of having to serve 10 grades of children in a small environment. So it's the multiplicity of having to do that, which makes the school unique in that sense. It's also measured as an elementary and middle school, which means that you have to have a multiplicity of people there working, because elementary school work and middle school work is different. The children are different. The interaction is different. The disposition of teachers working with those children has to be different, because we all know, if we think about our own children or our own selves, it wasn't difficult to get us to behave properly when we were in elementary school, particularly in the early grades. But the minute 7th grade hormones, I used to call it, hit, we get a totally different child, and that's from the good ones to the ones that are not so good. And so we need to continue to do that. We're working. We've talked with Mrs. Dantzler. We will continue to do that about what specifically she needs. She's a veteran administrator who's doing a wonderful job, but she's in assessment mode. So we've talked about possibly adding another assistant principal, things of that nature, to make sure that she has what she needs. So, and we'll continue to do that. We heard about alternative pathways. That is absolutely something that schools should continue to focus on. She's reduced the vacancies there. Mr. Zell, I think you engaged in a conversation about that with her. We're going to continue to do that. Staffing schools, particularly those that are rural, those that are old, hint, hint, I'm throwing that in there as well, and those who as the principal alluded to, need an improvement in cultural awareness. Those staffings are sometimes challenging, but we're very proud of the work that's been done there. One thing that stuck out to me, I've been talking about it since I've gotten here. It's an R.E. Davis issue, but it is also a Sumter School District issue. And I kind of wrote what you said here, kind of, sort of, Mrs. Dancer. We have to work on belief systems. We have to get people to believe that we can get better, and also, though, the criticality of that for children. If we are walking in school environments, in classrooms, in the district office, in the superintendent's office, with our head down, people are never going to want to be a part of the work that we're doing. So, if we got to cry in the office with the door closed. But when you're in front of children and in front of parents and in front of those that you're serving, we have to make sure that we believe. Mrs. Galloway was after me for a period of time about something that I said in a room one day about a booster shot of belief. Educators need to make sure that we keep something in front of us that motivates others to be better. Partnering with higher performing schools in the district, collaborating and sharing best practices we know works. We investigate in school best practices that we can do across classrooms, but we also do them with schools in our area, and even if we have to, we'll go elsewhere. We understand that best practices are best practices are best practices. However, they do need to be tweaked for the individual school that we're serving, individual classroom that we're serving. 4th grade can be successful this year in school X, and next year there might need to be some adjustments and changes. So that work of examining higher performing schools is continuing. 30 for 30, I thought that was a wonderful thing, meeting with students to give them a voice. Students will tell you about anything you want to know as long as you put them in the right environment and ask them. And then we heard about marketing. All of our schools at some level or another talked about marketing today, which is very important. Let's go to Lakewood. Of course, all of us are still talking about vacancies. The high schools are going to have a more difficult opportunity addressing vacancies for 2 reasons. One, certification is screwy. I'll use that term. That's about the only one I know that's a good Christian term to use. But when Dr. Wright faces the challenge of filling positions, her certification requirements for positions make it more difficult. Mrs. Healy and Mrs. Dantzler, at some level at least, certifications are, K5 or K6, whatever we use here in the state of South Carolina, and then you can develop specialties. Gets a little bit more difficult with the middle school students at R.E. Davis, but when you get to high school, the certifications are just more difficult because you had a science major, for instance, in high school. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're certified to teach biology. So there's some additional work that has to be done there. CCR, there's discrepancies across the state. Here's one thing that I think is very important for us to understand and really get our hands around. We talked a little bit about this, but I want to.
I'm
Yes,
sorry
sir.
to interrupt. Can you tell what CCR is?
College and career
Okay,
ready.
thank you. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Thank you for that. We use too many acronyms in the education, so thank you. There are new forms of calculation that are coming out regarding the assessment, and I know Dr. McLeod's already talked to us about that a little bit, and Dr. Moore. The new forms of calculation would not have had, if they had been implemented this year, we would have been reporting differently because of increases in where we would have been. So we're looking forward to that as long as they don't change it. How about that? We heard about increasing formative and summative assessments. When I first arrived, I talked about that because the importance of having formative assessments in place is it gives us all a snapshot of how children are progressing during the year. So we're not waiting until the EOC or EOG, the end of course tests, to determine whether or not students are successful. Students must attend school. We understand that. We got to work to do that. Quoting Antonio Brown as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, that was interesting, but I like that quote for sure. Here's an expectation for me. Teachers have to collaborate and share best practices inside and outside of the school environment because we must find out what's working and then work to make it work for us. True school improvement only comes from that. And so we heard about motivating children, and how do we motivate children? We have to make sure that children have as many options as we can provide, whether that means flexible school offerings, alternating the school schedule in the school day, whether it means flexible school scheduling. I prefer not to use the words alternative school offering or alternative school scheduling just because it creates confusion. Because when you use the word alternative, we automatically think about disciplinary issues and things of that nature. So a better way of describing that is flexible school offerings. And then lastly, we talked about the code of conduct. As we've heard, discipline incidents are down across the district. A code of conduct doesn't eliminate all issues, but the consistent implementation of one will help to ensure students and staff know what to follow. As we stated, we'll continue to monitor and update that code of conduct as needed. During second semester, we'll begin to pull together a team of principals, APs, and teachers to determine what is working and what needs to be reviewed and tweaked. And as a now retired administrator once told me as a brand new principal, discipline is not an exact science. And lastly, and I promise this is really lastly, there was conversation about a truancy officer. I'm happy to help with discussions and implementation of that. But the issue here is really twofold. One, students have to have things, as we've heard, to attract students to the school through programming and a safe environment. And then secondly, Lakewood High School in particular has a history of low attendance that is pervasive, which probably speaks very specifically to flexible scheduling. So, Madam Vice Chair, I know that was a bit extensive, but I wanted to let everybody know that the superintendent, first of all, was paying attention. And secondly, I wanted to kind of summarize what I heard today and some of our marching orders going forward.
You don't know how much we appreciate you being in these meetings, and because curriculum and instruction is number one.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. On our
You're welcome.
agenda, it says recommendations, next steps. Is that, Doctor, is that yours, Dr. McLeod?
I feel that the recommendations would be for you, if you have any recommendations, take to the full board.
Okay, then we will summarize a little bit at the next board member, and would you help us out with that?
Madam Vice Chair, Madam Chair of the committee, Vice Chair of the board, I'll be more than happy to do that. I'll kind of make this look a little more neat. I was typing
Okay.
as we were talking, but
All
I'll
right,
be glad to do that.
we can have that conversation.
Okay.
All right, I believe it says the consent agenda. I'm going to suggest that we approve it. And then after that, I'm going to suggest we adjourn and can talk about what we do at the next CIA meeting later. And enjoy your meeting. Thank you all for being here to help with curriculum instruction and assessment.